This will be a little bit different than some of my other live streams. I am going to go on a little bit of a tirade, but this is also going to be somewhat of a ask me anything format. But I will be maybe using some strong words here. So, advisory in effect. I may be using some strong words. I may be venting a little bit. And you have been warned. If you looked at the headline, the title for this stream, it says, a rant about free speech, the black community, and folks I dislike. And so that should kind of let you know where I'm going with this. But first, I'm going to hydrate and let the chat room enter when they do, if they do. But again, the stream is called my rant on free speech, black community, and folks I dislike. Um, so I might be a little bit all over the place. Well, not really, but I'm gonna kind of talk about things for the last few days, coming from my videos and some of the shorts that I posted, as well as the comments I received on those things, as well as a a stream that I had taken down last week. I want to address all of that particular in this particular live chat. Um, but first, hello to everyone entering the chat room. I see two so far. Um, Trying to wait maybe a minute or two before I go into my tirade. But again, this stream is going to be called um, this stream is going to be called my rant on free speech, the black community, and folks I dislike. And it's going to address stuff from, like I said, previous things that I published, whether my short videos, previous live streams, and maybe things going on, off camera as well. So the reason I call it my rant on free speech, black community, and folks I dislike is because although these are different concerns, they're all interrelated. Um, for instance, I always get commenters telling me I shouldn't talk about this or that. First of all, I can talk about whatever the fuck that I want because I can fight. Two, I can talk about whatever I want because I'm articulate enough to voice those opinions. And three, who's gonna stop me, boo? uh, but yeah, I'm more importantly, I'm a free speech absolutist, so I don't believe that anything is off the table. It's all in how you talk about it, so much as much less than what you talk about. The second part of that of the of the title, the black community, is because people have been mad that I've been going so hard at the black community, and I find that the people who are the most ardent in defending the black community are part of the problem. People who go so hard to defend something that which is clearly problematic clearly toxic are the ones who are part of the problem. And then the third part, folks I dislike, um, kind of goes back to the first and second part. The first part, insofar as I have the ability to voice my concerns over people I dislike, and the second part, as far as it comes to the black community, that I will attack people that I find have made the black community unlivable. So, so hello to everyone. If people have a problem with whatever I'm saying, they can kick bricks. Um, if they want to bring up, if you want to bring up a topic that's not germane to this live chat, drop it in a super chat or a super thanks, and I will address it. If someone brings up something irrelevant that's not a part of this discussion, they need to drop it in a super chat or a super thanks, or it will just be ignored. So that's how we are rocking. Um, but so again, the title of this live chat is my rant on free speech, the black community, and folks I dislike. So where do I want to start? So often when I post a lot of my political commentary, usually within my YouTube shorts, and they usually rather pithy. So it's not like I'm going to be given like a point by point breakdown of a strong political argument for this or for that, uh, relating to some current topic that in the news. I make it short and pithy, so it will be apropos for a short video, which is usually anywhere from 15 seconds to 3 minutes. And usually it rubs people the wrong way because, like I said, in the process of being pithy, sometimes I will say stuff in an acerbic way. So, for instance, I was talking about the black community, and I said, I'm not going to defend the black community. Uh, I, I was like, as far as I'm concerned, I rock with the movement called SYSBM, Save Yourself Black Men, which is basically many other black men like myself who are just like, yeah, we're not going to try to save the black community. It's beyond saving. We're just going to worry about ourselves and getting with women that we, we find more palatable. Um, and this started even before Kevin Samuels passed away. To his credit, he was trying to keep the black community strong by focusing on black relationships, particularly with women who sought men of value. Um, but their their standards were unrealistic, and he told them that, and they disliked him for it, and they mocked him in his death, and that's what fueled the SYSBM movement, the Save Yourself Black Men movement, seeing the disrespect this man got in his death, when the only thing he was doing was trying to uh, help people by being an image consultant and being more realistic, telling these women to be more realistic about their desires. Like you can want what you want, but that doesn't mean you should expect it. Um, I might want, you know, a black Lamborghini, you know, with my own private island, um, with, you know, 200 beautiful Asians on the island ready to service me at any given time. But that's not realistic, is it? So it'll be nice, but it's not realistic. Um, and I know that sounds highly exaggerated, but this is how unrealistic they were. And they, because they rather, you know, attack him than take accountability, we ended up in this gender war where, I mean, he didn't start the gender war, obviously, but it heightened the gender war within the black community so much so that a lot of brothers moved on. They don't want to date these chicks anymore. Um, and it's only heightens in the last 3 years since his passing. Like when you go overseas, like for instance, Colombia, when you go, when you're in Colombia, from the brother, my cousin, and others who go down there. I'm not really a Latin American traveler. I'm more of a Southeast Asian traveler. But for my brothers that go to Latin America, they would tell me like, "Hey, when you coming through customs in Colombia, this is back to back brothers there, and it's not just the so-called scrubs that these girls are talking about." Which doesn't even make sense because no guy who can regularly travel overseas is a scrub because that costs money and you have to have the free time to be able to travel. But not only that, it's not just the average guys going over there, it's the celebrities too. The funny thing was, Kevin Samuels used to lie and say the average men can't travel, which was just patently false. It does not take a lot of money to travel, it just takes money to travel, which means you can't, all your money can't be going to, you know, debt or child support and stuff like that. So if you're not, if you're not saddled with debt and child support, you can probably travel. Um, and I'm gonna get to some of the comments in a second. Hey Agatha, how are you? Um, but in any case, so his death and the ridicule he received at his death by both women and men in the black community, I was like, oh yeah, so now we're going. We're getting, we're gonna ignore the women, and we're gonna ignore these little, their little plantation pro sympathizers as well. Heavy on the simp, pathizer. um, and so when I've made a few comments in the past few months, um, just recently as of a few days ago, saying that the black community is trash, I mean, I meant it. And I said it insofar, and I came at it from a different angle, that I was saying a lot of people who came out of black community were survivors of the black community because a lot of us faced abuse and neglect and violence, um, even post traumatic stress. And in the most recent video, I was saying, I was like, a lot of this didn't just come from the community at large, from the black community at large. It came specifically from our black families. A lot of us survived our black families, whether we faced abuse in those families, which I have, or neglect, or hunger, extreme poverty, violence. So, yeah. And so I had a few comments attacking me saying, how dare you talk about this sort of thing? Because, there's always these some black folks who find who think it's wrong for black people to air out dirty laundry outside of the black community itself. And I'm like, nah, fuck that. If something needs to be the best way to clean up something dirty is to air it out so it can get disinfected. Let me get, but let me get to what Cardboard Clown is saying. Maverick earned himself his way out of here. So anyway, he says, I think we're in a time where the stuff we've memorized is no longer relevant. People are stuck. They have to cast off the rhetoric of an old world and look at the world fresh. That's a hard thing. Um, Possibly. It depends on what you're referring to exactly, but you may have a point. He goes on to say, to do, that's a hard thing to do. In the interim, people are going to be mad and nonsensical, in my opinion. He says, I'm listening, just throwing in my 2 cents. I don't claim to know anything about the black community firsthand as an experience. I just mean people in general. The times are changing. Um, Hello, Hayoma. I think if that, I hope that's how you say your name. You haven't seen my streams in a year. Have you changed your username? Because I don't remember this username. You may have been under a different one. So getting back to what I was saying, uh, and shout out to Cardboard for his comments. Um, so yeah, so like I said, so some people got in their feelings about my video a few days ago when I was saying that I'm not going to defend the black community where a lot of us have been survivors of it, and I meant insofar as a lot of us coming out of the black community had to survive our very own families, the very place where you sought safety within a community where it was often violent and chaotic and riddled with poverty and so forth. This the home your 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 home was supposed to be your your safety net, right? And often in the black community, the home was the worst part of the black community, unfortunately. And because of that, a lot of us have formed unhealthy uh, have formed unhealthy forms of attachment. Um, and yes, I'm gonna go a little bit into my psychology bag here. But yeah, some of us have formed unhealthy forms of attachment because of our toxic family upbringing. A lot of us suffer post traumatic stress. There is generational trauma. And when it comes to transgenerational trauma, this was something I was at odds with at first because, yes, there is generational trauma, but often I find the explanation behind it to be pseudoscientific, because a lot of people try to give it a quasi scientific explanation by reducing it to epigenetics. But epigenetics is not the biological mechanism for generational trauma because that's not how epigenetics works. Literally, every time you have a new child, the epigenetics is given a whole new, given a whole new uh, remix, to put it in a colloquial way. But yeah, this is why. So when people think I'm going hard at the black community, I'm speaking at it both from a point of I'm looking at it both from the point of behavioral research, and I'm looking at it from a point of being a personal survivor of the black community. And like I said, coming from our families, like I said, a lot of us have suffered post traumatic stress coming out the black community. Um, a lot of us have suffered food insecurity. poverty, violence, abuse, neglect, and generational trauma. Why would I defend that? Why would I act like everything is all good with the black community just because, oh, we don't want to talk about the black community in front of the white people? No, I'm gonna talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. Agnes says, yes, I do believe the black community always tries to belittle us. You shouldn't speak up, which is very traumatic, right? Let me get some water. Got two things of water this time. I have my ice water, then I have my trusty uh, leader. But so two of the comments, one guy was like, "Man, what are you even talking about?" And I'm like, the fact that you don't know what I'm talking about means you are probably one of the problems. Because I also went into a fact about, the black community is always being terrorized by YNs, young niggas. If you don't know what YNs mean, I'm not gonna use ninja. I'm just gonna say what it is. It means young niggas, thugs. They have been terrorizing the black community for over 40 years. And the guy who said, "Huh, what are you talking about?" looked exactly like one of them. So I'm calling you out if he's watching this, and I don't care if he is, because I can fight, and I'm a veteran, so I can clap those tools too, and much better than you can. Um, and then there was this old boomer. He was like, "Listen here, young man," and I'm like, "Nigga, who the fuck you calling a young man?" I'm like, I am in my late 40s. I'm a few years away from 50. If you see a young man, you can go suck his dick. He was like, we don't need people like you talking about the black community, blah, blah, blah. It's like, first of all, the only people who defend the black community have never lived anywhere else. The fact that I've actually moved around the world, traveled, means I can see something for the for its toxicity because I've been to other places from which to compare it. Guaranteed, if you go to Japan, you can have 4 and 5 year olds walking around by themselves because that's how safe their that's how safe their society is. Their 4 or 5 year old child can walk around safe. That that young students can come home late at night safely because the community sees it as a priority for making sure their young are taken care of and protected. Whereas our young here in the black community are prey, not just from YNs, but sometimes from their family. It is what it is. And again, I'm a personal survivor, and I'm someone who can back it up with the behavioral research data and stats. Then, moreover, he was like, this little old boomer was like, and you don't see anyone else on YouTube talking about their own community, huh? He said, it's only you. He said, you always want to talk about the black community. But I'm like, man, shut the fuck up, you old boomer. And I don't care if this video gets demonetized. I really don't give a shit. I hate boomers. So, YouTube, I guess I'm doing hate speech here. I guess I'm doing hate speech because I said fuck boomers. Fuck boomers. They fucked up the society. They were given the most entitlements and benefits of any generation in America since its beginning. And then right afterwards made sure to pull those benefits from every other generation that came after them, and then says, well, why aren't you guys as doing as well off as we did? We got it out the mud. We pulled ourselves up out of bootstraps. You don't see us complaining. Man, fuck boomers. And fuck black boomers in particular. Because they're the ones, it is under the black boomers in which the black community went to shit. Look it up. Fact check me. it was these black boomers in the 60s and 70s with their jive. No, man, them jive turkeys, I'm gonna slice their neck. And like that started with them. It didn't start. They have blamed every other younger black generation for the problems in the black community, except instead of taking accountability for they being the ones who destroyed the black community, the black boomers. Didn't start with Gen X, which is my generation. Didn't start with millennials, whom they can't distinguish between Gen X, and it didn't start with Gen Z. Again, they can't even distinguish the three different generations, and they think the newest generation, Gen Alpha, is Gen Z as well. They don't even know. Agnes says, yeah, I think lots of trauma in the community. Yeah, definitely. She says someone has to speak up. That's how the community is going to face what has been going on for centuries. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, and like that's my retort to people who say, why are you airing, why are you speaking ill in the black community? No one else does this. And it's like, first of all, you can't correct a problem by hiding it. That's what boomers like to do. They they don't want our they don't want the dirt of the black community aired out because they know it's their fault. But the best way to clean up a mess is to let it get some air and let it so it can get disinfected. You don't clean up something dirty by letting it sit in the mud. You pull it out and clean it. So yeah, fuck boomers. And and on top of that, when he said on YouTube you don't see any other communities putting down each other and criticizing each other, yes, the hell you do. And like I told him in a comment, well, actually not in a comment, I made another I made another YouTube short to answer him. Yes, we do. I mean, yes, they do. I was like, that's his problem that he doesn't watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. He probably only watches blackety black stuff. But there's like maybe a million. I don't even know the exact amount, but I'm guessing on YouTube alone there's almost a million content creators. And you best to believe that within these other ethnic communities, they definitely address issues within their community. Asians are addressing the problems in their community all the time. Latinos are talking about problems in their community all the time. Indians talk about problems in their community. They may talk about it differently than we do, but that's because some of our issues in each respective community may be different. But Asians definitely talk like they you can go to any Asian content creator, especially a male Asian content creator, and they're often talking about issues that face the Asian community, particularly Asian males. They talk about how most of their women don't desire Asian men, or they talk about the stereotypes Asian men face, or they talk about the the different um, ethnic rivalries within the Asian community, which is why just like how Black people want to be distinguished from other other black groups coming to America, different black immigrant groups. There are a lot of Asians within the Asian American community that want that distinction too. East, Southeast Asians don't want to be lumped in with other East Asians, particularly Chinese. Pacific Islanders don't want to be lumped up with East Asians. Um, it it gets deep. Pause. But to say, oh, no other group on YouTube talks about each other, puts each other down, stuff like that. Yes, the hell they do. There are there. Look, there are there are Latino people and Asian people within the red pill online. So he's just patently wrong in what he's saying that I'm one of these vocal minority within the black community that puts puts the black community down. No, I'm not the first, nor am I the last. I mean, I could name probably a dozen folks that talk about it and do it in a on a bigger to have a bigger platform to talk about it than I do, like Angry Man or what's his name, Mumia Ali, and so many people. What's up, Simplified Accounting? Bro, we definitely gotta do that live stream when you get a chance, so you can actually start teaching some folks some financial literacy. Um, Maybe that'll help you with the upcoming tax season as well. But he says the most selfish generation. Yeah, like there's literally a book written about the baby boomers called the baby boomers, the sociopathic generation. They are so they are so freaking entitled, and yet they want to say everyone else like is they want to talk about everyone else like being entitled. Like they're the entitled ones. Their generation enjoyed um, government benefits and entitlements that no other generation before or after has enjoyed. And then what did they do once they became adults? They sought to pull these very entitlements and benefits from the younger generations, which they enjoyed. So it's like, so screw them. So whoever was behind that username a few days ago that um try to get on me in my comments, man, he can suck my young man dick. Like, don't be call me young man. Like, man, go somewhere. Go take some Metamucil, something. He's a job turkey. You're right. Yeah, yeah, me and your cousin was talking about that too, man. Like I was telling him that a few weeks ago. I was like, all the stuff that they talk about with young people, being bad. I was like, they started that shit in the '60s and '70s. I was like, you can look at those old black exploitation films. That shows how the boomers were wilding back in the day. There ain't no doubt. But yeah, so that gets into part of why I was saying free speech and black community and people I dislike. So people I dislike, boomers. Black community, I think is trash. It, there was a point in which it was worth saving. It's beyond that point. Like when you have a boat out at sea for long enough, it's going to need repairs. That's to be expected. And you don't try to repair the whole thing at once or the ship will sink, of course. You repair it plank by plank. And if people are unaware, I'm giving an allusion to something called Neurath's boat. Talk about a philosopher from the early 20th century named Otto Neurath, who was a logical positivist, and he was basically saying that philosophy was like a boat out at sea that, though flawed, you repair it, you know, piece by piece, but you don't try to reconstruct the whole thing at once, or the whole ship will sink. You do it piece by piece. But here's the caveat: when the thing is so, once it is beyond like just once it's beyond repair, whereas like the more you try to repair it, the more it, the more repairs need to be done. It's beyond repair. It's time to abandon ship. But these pro blackity blacks and these hoteps and these conscious folks will want you to keep patching holes in the ship and go down with it rather than jump onto another ship. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to sacrifice myself for to save the ship. Now, if some other people want to do that, go right ahead. I'm not the captain. I'm not even the first mate. I'm just a part of the crew. If the captain and his first mate want to go down with the ship, they can go right on ahead. But I am not gonna spend, sacrifice my life for the better of the ship. And this is we the Gen Z are at the mercy of the other generations. They are so different from us. I see Gen's I see Gen Z sort of as a reflection of their grandparents, the baby boomers. Gen Z definitely is entitled, but it's different. Like I said, it was something just about boomers from their inception that made them think they could just do whatever. Even when they came into their teenage years and early adulthood, they were annoying. It was the boomers, by the way, who were the hippies. They were the hippies and the revolutionaries and the counter revolutionaries. So even when they thought they were doing something to to uh to cause progress, they were still annoying everyone. So like I said, so those are the folks I dislike, boomers. And like I said, if you so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the fact I had a live stream removed earlier this week. Um, it was my red pill versus black pill conversation, and apparently it went against YouTube's community guidelines for hate speech. And to be honest, I don't even know what I said. It told me at one time I said whatever I said that went against their guidelines at 16 minutes and 38 seconds. But for the life of me, I really don't know what I said. And to be completely honest, YouTube, I really don't care. Like I did take the social skills training to rectify knowing what I can say and not say to go against community guidelines. But that doesn't mean that I didn't actually believe what I said. If I said it, I meant it. And I hold my tongue for no one. Call me evil or unbelievable. You know, hashtag notorious BIG. That's how I rock. I'm Generation X. I don't give a fuck. Um, Again, I'm gonna uh, go by their guidelines because this is their platform. But if I said something against a protected group, fuck that group. If I said something that was hate speech, so be it. I stand by it because I'm a free speech absolutist and I believe in free speech. I'm not going to change it, and you're not going to make me not say what I want to say, except out of my own sense of um, priorities in what I say. But taking some socials training or trying to educate me on what hate speech is not going to change what I say or think. I do. You can't threaten me legally. You can't threaten me financially. And you can't threaten me physically. I can fight. I don't give a fuck. And fuck the law. Full stop. So you're going to demonetize this stream. Go right on ahead. Mind you, YouTube is the same ones. They were taking down people's videos, deplatforming them, demonetizing them during the pandemic because they were forced to do so by the presidential administration at the time, the Biden administration. So they were, look, it went so far that an actual news organization, The Hill, was taken off of YouTube for a week. A freaking news organization because it went against YouTube's community guidelines against anti-COVID talk or whatever at the time. So, by with all due respect, YouTube, fuck you. That's how I think. That's how I feel about it. Again, I will abide by the community guidelines, but don't think it's going to check what I want to say. I'll just phrase it differently. But if anyone remembers, again, the stream I had a week ago, black red pill versus black pill, it's been taken down by them. And again, somewhere within it, at 16 minutes and 38 seconds, I said something that could be construed as hate speech. So fucking be it. I'm a free speech absolutist. And I'm damn sure not going to switch up just for $100 a month or whatever money I get. I could see if I was someone like PewDiePie or Mr. Beast or Matt Pat or one of those other guys that's making literally millions of dollars on here. I'm not, so I don't care. Cardboard Clown says Gen Z has experienced less separation of consciousness and communication. They've been able to live in a world even more than millennials in which you can be an anonymous voice all interacting. um, sure, I guess. Um, it's definitely a problem with anonymity online, but that didn't start with Gen Z. So I'm gonna invoke the fairness maximum and say I'm not gonna blame a particular generation or group for something that affects all of us. Everyone who's currently online can sometimes use the veil of anonymity to say vile things or to be kind of detached from reality. And even before digital media, that happened in print media, like when people would post anonymous comments in the newspaper and magazines back in the day. So it's the same thing. Digital just makes the only difference between the biggest, well, not the only, but one of the biggest differences between communication in the digital media and the print media is not that things are worse in digital media, but just that it's more immediate, right? People were just as toxic in their comments, um, as well as other things. Back in the day when leaving comments might take a week or a month when till that that periodical was published, whether you're talking about a magazine, a newsletter, the newspaper, whatever. And you will have anonymous comments. You will have, you know, comments that were good and bad and ugly back then. It was the same thing. It's just that now it's more immediate and it's more frequent because there's so many different ways to interact online and it's all instantaneous. So it makes it seem worse just because it's more in your face. Cowboy, Cowboy says I grew up with the internet, but it was mostly Neopets. I don't know what Neopets are, unless it's something like Gigapets. He said in Homestar. I don't even know what those are. Um, Gaia, you are triggering the Streamlabs my Streamlab excuse me my Streamlabs AI moderator. You have to now. I can vent because I'm the creator, but I've tweaked my AI moderator to keep things at a civil level of discourse here. So you have, again, it's not what you say, it's how you phrase it. Um, so I don't get upset with the AI because it's only doing what it was tweaked to do. I would say whatever you got to say, put it in a more family friendly, put it in more family friendly phrasing so that you don't trigger the AI censor. So actually, yes, I do remember was looking for it cannot be found. I have I have an AI moderator because I needed to keep things at a civil level of discourse. Things can get out of line very quickly in these live chats. So I'm not going to remove my AI moderator just for one person, especially when that person hasn't put anything in my super chat. Like if people want any special consideration in my live chat, you will have to put money down. I'm I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be funny, but if you are not contributing to my channel in any way, you really have no say in how I run my chat rooms. And I'm not trying to be rude, not trying to be funny, not trying to diss anyone. But look, if people want special consideration in my chat rooms above everyone else, you're gonna have to put down some money. Money talks. Carver said, "Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. It's more faster with immediate verification of info and a backlog of conversations. I think perspectives from different people in that context. Yeah. So, like I said, the biggest difference between digital media and print media is, I think, just the immediacy and the frequency with which you interact with digital media as compared to print media in the past. And some of us still interact with print media. Some of us still read uh, newspaper articles. Some of us still read magazines. Well, some of us kind of do a combination where we still read our magazines and newspapers, but we read them online. So that's fine. I mean, that's pretty much no different than back in the day when you would go to, say, the library and you would read periodicals through what is that machine, the whatever machine that you could find old news articles and clippings and stuff like that that we often needed to do for like scholarly research in, like, high school and middle school and college, if you were still in college in the 90s. Like I said, Neopets is like a digital Pokemon. So again, that's like a Gigapet, right? I'm guessing that's like a Gigapet. Neopet sounds like it was like a Gigapet. Or Digimon. Or Tamagotchi. Because so we had so you had Tamagotchi, then you had Gigapets, which was like the Americanized version of Tamagotchi. Because unlike Tamagotchi, with the Gigapet, when it died, you could just replay it. Um, Whereas with the Tamagotchi, once it died, you had to get a whole new Tamagotchi because once the pet died, it was done. Although I think there was a way you could reset it so that you didn't have to buy a new Tamagotchi. The ones that's out now, the one they brought Tamagotchi back a few years ago. Now you can reset it. You don't have to buy a whole new one. So I'm guessing that's what Neopets is like, Tamagotchi or the Gigapets. So, and anyone complaining about me ignoring their comments, drop a super chat. I'm not gonna If you not, if you are not, if you are not saying anything relevant to the discussion, I will ignore you. Yeah, this is why is a free speech absolutist going on about such an absurd task? Got to work on the human level communication, like teaching nonviolent communication. Um, are you neurodivergent? Because that is not that that is completely non sequitur. And I'm not trying to be funny, but that's completely non sequitur. So I don't know if you're neurodivergent or not, but that has nothing to do with me talking about being a free speech absolutist. Being a free speech absolutist means you don't believe that people should have limits on the things that they say just because other people don't like it. And it also means that we believe that government shouldn't infringe on people's rights, on people's ability to speak their minds. And that gets into a larger aspect, which is cognitive liberty, which is being able to speak one's mind, have, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press, without it being controlled through, uh, you know, these digital platforms that restrict what people can say and do and think, especially when those platforms are being jawboned by the government, which is something I also talked about earlier this week. What's up, Moonlit? He says, $ just a contrarian. If you would like to ask a quote unquote off topic, bottom right of your screen, or buy a coffee to contribute, please have patience. He's one of the few creators who will respond to everyone in time. Try not to spam, please. He will respond to you. Wait until that is I, is finished responding to everyone equally and leave a like and a sub. Amen, brother. Guys, this says, so unless people are whoring their money out to you in super chats, their contributions are meaningless. Okay, you capitalistic slopsis. Good luck with all your insane tasks. Y'all are weird. First of all, you're an autistic, dumb piece of shit because none of what you said made a little bit of sense. You think just by stringing together words that you don't even know what they mean, that it makes you sound like you're intelligent. It just makes you sound like you're fucking neurodivergent, as I suspected you are, because it's past midnight and most neurodivergents have sleep problems with sleeping. Um, However, I don't. So once it hits past an hour, I will be gone. Um, First of all, you chose to come to my super chat. No one forced you to come here. Two, I said anyone contributing to the discussion, I will respond to them. What I did say is, if you are asking me something irrelevant to the discussion, I will not respond unless you drop a super chat, because you are too stupid to understand what I said and when I said it and why I said it. Makes you think that you can come here and insult me when you came to come to my live chat. I didn't force you to come here, you stupid, low IQ, mental deficient piece of shit. Hate speech. But yeah, that's no one's telling anyone in the chat room they have to put money down. What I said was, if you are asking me things which are completely irrelevant to my discussion, I am not going to respond. But if you expect me to respond to said irrelevant comments, then you will drop a super chat, because that's what you do in respect in this platform. You do it on it happens on Twitch, you do it on Kick, you do it on Snapchat, you do it on TikTok. This is not unique. This is not sui generis to me and my channel. If you don't like that, you can kick fucking bricks and don't ever come back to my channel, you low IQ piece of shit. Just like that. I'm Gen X. I don't give a fuck about your feelings. Gen X, we don't give a fuck. 1965 to 1980, best generation there was. Fuck you and everything you represent. Stay off my channel if you don't like it. Boom, just like that. Carb, what's his year? You get the concept. It was just an example. Okay, I got you. Melissa, sorry I'm late. I was outside grilling mackerel for strays. Dude, don't you you're you're grilling mackerel for cats? The cat's eating better than I am, man. I mean, this is the best I've been eating for like months, and that's only because it's my birth. It was my birthday, a day, 2 days ago. Other than that, I don't eat like that. You just feeding it. That would put Heathcliff to shame. Next thing I know, you're gonna have some like lasagna for them next. Garfield, but yeah, grilling mackerel for stray cats. He's spoiling them. They'd be lucky if I leave a can of whatever out there. I don't know. I don't feed strays because that means they'll keep coming back. I don't want that. But I mean, that's nice. But damn, grilling mackerel? These are like four fish, not demonstrations on rice for the dogs and cats. Guy says, you got some cognitive dissonance, bro. This guy literally doesn't know that, or woman, I don't know whether guy is a girl or a guy, but this person, Gaia the Sage, is clearly a neurodivergent person, is using concepts completely out of the definition in which they have any reference. Like again, this once you get past midnight, you're gonna face a bunch of neurodivergent people because the sheer fact of the matter is most autistic people have sleep disturbances. They have parasomnia, or they have a or they can't keep a consistent sleep wake cycle. So these are the people who stay up all night long and tend to be on platforms like this, um, disrupting content creators. And that is the very reason why I have an AI moderator on here to keep weirdos like that person from spamming my live chats. And so my Streamlab did a good job in doing that. Melissa's guy used adult conservation here. No, we already made him kick bricks, or her. I don't know which. Like you could see from the person's replies in the chat that they are clearly um, they clearly have disorganized thoughts and thinks using big words is going to make them sound more intelligent. When you have to use big words and they're completely divorced how from the actual reference of that term, you know that they don't know what they're talking about. And that always happens past midnight. You get these weirdos. He said, "LOL, demonetization fish." He said, "Man, I didn't take out the pin bones of the mackerel." LOL, autocorrect. Is there fresh caught mackerel at the market? 120 baht for four large mackerel. But but for cats, I mean, I like. Don't get me wrong. I like animals. I like cats. But I'm not feeding strays. You feed them that good, they are definitely coming back. You may as well adopt them now because you're gonna feed them something that good. They gonna just through behavioral conditioning. That's just Pavlovian conditioning right there. They're gonna keep coming back, thinking they're gonna get some more. So cheaper than 10 cans. Oh, so yeah, and rice, and rice. So mostly it's leftover stuff. Still, to them, that's like a smorgasbord. That's like you best believe local ties. I don't. I mean, I don't know Thai culture like that, but I'm pretty sure Thai people don't feed strays like that. I'm pretty sure about that. Now in Japan, yeah, they would feed strays, especially if it's near like say like a Shinto temple or something like that. Oh, they'll they'll treat those cats really well. But look like we getting a bunch of the bozos in here. So that was my rant, guys. That was my rant on And people can ask me questions now, but I had to get that rant out about my views on free speech, absolutism, uh, why I say the things that I say about the black community and the folks whom I dislike, namely boomers and the YNs. What I will say about YNs, I will say something good about the YNs. I noticed that some of them, if you look like if well, I'll say this for some YNs, if you look masculine to them, like you look like someone that could hurt them, they will have respect for you, if that makes sense. Because YNs are often hyper masculine and usually in, you know, in some of these uh, thuggery and criminal. Uh, how do I want to phrase this? Often in like criminal subcultures or hyper masculine subcultures, people who even outside of their circle appear masculine will probably hold more respect by them than people who seem like pansies. I noticed I used to get a lot more pushback from YNs several years ago when I would have on my little call center outfit. Not that I didn't wear a uniform, but if you think of like the stereotypical sort of way people dress at call centers, that's how I used to look. And because of that, I appeared soft to them. So some of them would try me. I find it now that people are less likely to try me, maybe because I don't look as young as I did 9 years ago, or because I carry myself differently and I don't wear my call center gear anymore. Even when I'm still working in the call center, I don't dress that way. Um, as far as the boomers, I mean, yeah, I can say good things about them, but I just don't feel like it because they really get on my nerves. They're entitled, I think, and I really don't like. The I know this will rub a lot of people the wrong way because we all have family that are in the boomer generation whom we love very dearly. But this has to be said: when the boomer generation largely passes away, we'll see a large distribution of wealth to the younger generations that they've hoarded. A lot of look again. I know it sounds completely bad to say this, but because the boomers hold so much of the nation's wealth, once they pass away, we'll see a much better distribution of wealth amongst the generations once they pass it. Because it's not going to all fall onto the Gen X. It's not. We'll be largely in charge of society, but we won't be the main inheritors of that wealth. It'll be more, I think it's going to be more evenly distributed than it was when the boomers were in power. Both they and the silent generation, which is the boomers' parents, hoarded a lot of the nation's wealth. And then, like I said, what made it worse was that then they undercut many of the entitlements and benefits that allowed them to accrue that very wealth, which is just selfish. Um, well, this is all good. He said, "Giant is a strong feminine." Giant is a strong feminine name, but I've seen it used for both genders. However, the comment earlier, Gia, um, no, it was Gaia. Gaia is like the name of Mother Earth. Like it was the Gaia was the Gaia was one of the uh, primordial deities within the Greek pantheon of gods. Like you had the primordial, so you had the primordial deities. You had the titans. Then you had like the the giants and the psych the cyclop not I'm about to say cyclopedia, not the cyclopedia, the the monsters with one eye, and then you had the Mount Olympian gods, and so Gaia was one of the primordial deities that, which depending on your understanding of Hellenistic mythology, was either born from the very first primordial deity, Chaos, or was a contemporary of Chaos, along with uh, two other primordial deities, Eros and uh, Kronos. But in any case, um, that's what I was saying. I don't know if Gaia is a girl or a guy because Gaia is a female name, but then this could be some weirdo who's using a female centered name because we know what times we living in today. But anyway, he said, however, the comment earlier, Gaia, if you got an issue and don't know how to articulate like an adult, dot dot dot. Cardboard says people are going to be mad no matter what you think. Someone out there will be happy to disagree aggressively. That's 100% facts right there. It says speak your truth. People who want to argue just aren't in the right place to hear you. And again, I don't mind if people disagree with me and they can argue with me as long as they can argue with me rationally without the name calling, without the disorganized thoughts being spewed out. Like just like Gaia was obviously just throwing out a bunch of word salad, thinking it sounded intelligent because he or she was using big words, but it was just a bunch of word salad, and it became quite apparent that this person is neurodivergent. Molly says, please feel free to come to my channel and let's interface for all the trolls. Molly says, boomers are cute. He said, I feel love for them. They're a little over entitled. It's not, I mean, it's the entitlement, yes, but then it's also some of their sociopathic behavior. Like they not only are they entitled, but they've gone out of their way to undercut the younger generations. And what makes it sociopathic is then after undercutting the younger generations, then they blame them for not being as successful as they are. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, why would you undercut the very things that led to your success and then blame the same folks for not reaching the same levels of success as you did? It just that's sociopathic, um, right there. Joe says, yeah. He said, yep, you're right. Time to deport my mom and dad. That's cold, brother. But no, like I said, I know like it's it's a cold fact. Like I said, it's not. Of course, no one wants to wish death on their significant, well, on their family members, maybe their teachers and mentors, stuff like that, who are maybe from the baby boomer generation or even the silent generation if they're still alive. But it is just a cold fact of the matter that they hoard most of the nation's wealth, and then when their generation passes away, that wealth would be more evenly distributed within society because I just don't see it being hoarded in the same way by Generation X, simply because we didn't have the means to do so in the first place. Mona says, wouldn't it be interesting to see Gen Z in their late 70s, the way they will hopefully understand Gen X more? Like it would be, oh, now that makes sense why Gen X stopped giving a F. I I don't know. So Gen X is so Gen Z by and large are the children of Generation X adults. Um, and there's going to be a bit of rebellion as there is in any intergenerational rivalry. I don't know if once they become elderly, they will think like their parents. At least, well, just because every generation has takes on certain cultural traits or whatever. So it could happen. I don't know. It's just I don't really have any evidence to back up one way or the other how they will think and behave when they reach their elder years. It could be like their parents, or it could be like their grandparents, the baby boomers, or they could be like something else entirely. Like they might have their own more. They might just carry on their own cultural, um, generational and cultural values. You know, okay, I didn't know where you were headed about boomers. Yeah, 100% right. Carboy says the biggest monsters are made of fear. One has to be fearless to get messy in your brain to understand how that thing works. A lot of people who destroy are stuck in the quote unquote why and not the quote unquote what they're doing. Joe says, hello, sorry, I have a messed up sense of humor. But yeah, realistically, it's going to be a slight issue with Social Security if you know how that works. Yeah, that's another thing that the boomers have screwed us up on. Like, more than likely, well, Gen X may, but it's very uncertain that millennials or Gen Z will be able to collect Social Security. Gen X probably like Gen X aren't old enough to. Like the oldest Gen Xers now are um, 65. No, so the oldest Gen X are 60, but because they raised Social Security and they're saying they need to keep raising Social Security as people live longer years, a lot of people are never going to get to see Social Security, either because they're not going to live long enough to collect, or again, the system may break down. Social Security acts like a is works like a legal pyramid scheme to put it in this crudest to put it in the most crudest context. It works sort of like a pyramid scheme. Like people collecting today Social Security are living off what people today are putting into it. So it is our taxes paying for the silent generation and the baby boomers Social Security. But we don't know if that's going to be the case for us when we reach our elderly years, that the system will still be intact, that there'll be young people still able to pay into the same system that will fuel our Social Security benefits. There's there's a lot of cynicism about that. And again, it's because the very boomers have weakened that system. It's just like they've made it harder for younger people to get housing through zoning restrictions, through um, other sorts of social economic means to make sure that their houses are worth a lot while undercutting everyone else's ability to buy their first home. Then they'll be like, why didn't you buy a home yet? I bought a home when I was 21. It's like, yeah, okay. I'm so glad that you were able to buy, your home straight out of high school after you worked 2 years at Sears, but that's not gonna buy and afford a house today. And then they'll try to say, you guys are just too spoiled. Like you want to do this and do that. When I bought my house, it was just something small. You guys want too much. You want a big mansion. Like no, just a house. It's like okay, yes, your house may be tiny, but you were still able to buy your own house. On top of that, most of you did it with on a single income. You weren't using a combined income of husband and wife. It was just the husband on a single income working, buying a house, small as it may be, and just maybe one car. But most of us can't even do that. Like, yes, I have a home, but I had to buy one overseas. Joseph, yeah, just print more money, problem solved. Yeah, we know what that gets you. Sing, that's how you get that super inflation. Mullen says you will find that's very welcome here. A good sense of humor, folks. Yeah, Joe's not new. Joe's been here for a while. Joe's been here for over I'm gonna say a year and a half now, I think. But yeah, Joe said Social Security is a pyramid scheme. He said the problem might be too many boomers, not enough generation before the boomers to support the boomers. Yeah, like I said, the boomers are fine because we're all paying into the system that keeps their social security going. But when we reach the state where we need to withdraw from Social Security, I don't. I'm very dubious that it's there, and so you have some conservatives saying, "Well, let's just privatize Social Security, and then we won't have to worry about it." Yeah. So I get the conservative idea for privatizing Social Security, but that's fraught with some um, mistakes too. Like it could work, but it's all about the implementation. And we should always realize that when it comes to implementation, there's always going to be problems. So I'm not sure if privatizing Social Security is the right way to go, but it is at least it is a proposed solution. Whereas those on the other side are just whereas liberals and progressives are just saying, well, we need to just put more money into it. Whose money? Whose money? And when and and who ensures that keeps going? Like I said, the way it works now is basically a pyramid scheme. Pyramid schemes don't last. Joseph Kinsey said, yes, sir, I love you. Melissa says, I was hoping for by the time we reach 60. Is that, no, is that 80 or is that 60? Get my glasses. Sorry. Middle year moment. I need to get my eyes checked, by the way. I was supposed to do so literally 4 years ago, and I haven't done so. He said, yeah, by the time we reach 80, right, whatever year that is, war is an afterthought, our oceans and deep early and solar system fully explored and mapped, poverty, famine, homelessness gone. Yeah, don't count on that. He said mandatory work, PT and education from 5 to 20, no religion and education except in history, prisons become rehabs, water, air, and solar is our energy, all nuclear weaponry, recycled for space travel and fuel. Yeah, I'm not too confident in those things happening. That might happen in Star Trek, but in Star Wars it doesn't. Star so if you look at the original Star Wars, I think Star Wars gave a more accurate portrayal of what the future is going to be like, whereas Star Trek gave us sort of an ideal to aspire to. Agnes says, I was thinking the same thing. Might not get any Social Security. Yeah, I it might still. I think it's going to be still around in some form, but I just don't have any confidence that it will be there for us the way it was for the older generations, for the boomers and the silent generation and the greatest generation. Those three generations got the full benefit of the Social Security system. And I just don't think the system as it stands today will still to be there for us, especially maybe for Gen X, it will still be around, but I'm definitely not confident it will be around for millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Melissa, yeah, I need new script glasses. Is it? Agnes is wondering where my tax is going right now. Yeah, well, a lot of it goes to again government entitlements like Social Security and medical care and Medicaid. Then a large part goes to the defense, national defense and security. Those are the two expenditures. Joe says, "Dude, I have reading glasses all over the house and I still can't see. Now that I know who you are, I know who I am." Cardboard says we're somewhere between Doctor Strangelove and Terminator. Um, I don't think we're near Terminator just because, well, I don't think you were on any of my previous live streams, but you can go check them out where I have quite a bit of skepticism in this whole belief in AI singularity and strong AI taking over. I I don't think looking at cognitive research and the current artificial intelligence research that we're close to a point of reaching strong AI, and definitely not AI singularity, which is the point where strong AI takes over and reaches sentience. I don't think we're nowhere near that point just because of so many of the limits of artificial intelligence today. But I have a few streams I've done on that. If you want to check that out, Doctor Strangelove, maybe so, but our bioengineering isn't that great either. If there was if there was a dystopia, a sci-fi dystopia, I think we're close to. I don't know. Mm, I was gonna say Blade Runner, but again, our AI isn't that good. I don't know if there's a perfect. I don't know. I think we might be closer to Demolition Man. I don't know. Joseph's taxes go to Pelosi. Nah, taxes don't go to Nancy. Nancy gets all her money through insider trading. That's where Nancy gets all her money. I mean, if I don't know how it's not a conflict of interest that a person married to a a stock I think he's like a venture capitalist or stockbroker of some sort that 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 the confidential information she gets from Congress he's not getting. How are they able to make such huge profits during the pandemic when they knew all the different things that would be out that we would need to rely on during the pandemic? And that just so happened to be what they invested in and made huge profits. I'm sure that was complete coincidence and not insider trading at all. But yet they'll lock up Martha Stewart. And I heard Martha Stewart got them yams too, by the way. And I'm just let me stop playing. But anyway, Melissa says global income for basic work. Uh, yeah, I don't put much confidence in a universal. I think you're talking about a universal basic income. I don't think America's going to do that anytime soon. It said Boy Scout, grunt work type stuff, fishing, hunting, crafting, building, farming, etc. Ladies maybe make a sandwich and knit something and share some titty milk boom song. He said, sorry, that was from a movie. What, taxes go to Nancy Pelosi? That was off a movie? Now I gotta know what movie that is. But Melissa, yeah, the youth care for the elderly and the middle care for both free. Carver said, yeah, I agree with that. He said, okay, you're right. Melissa's Nancy's demonic. Man, and then we got then we have a gerontocracy in Congress. That's another problem. When the people running the government are so far removed from the concerns of the general population, that is not good. Like we may as well just have a royal family at this point. Like it to be ruled by a gerontocracy, and not just a gerontocracy, an oligarchy, we might as well just have a royal family. The royal family was well removed from the needs and concerns of the general population, but that was built into the system. This was not built into the system, at least not as a founding father saw it. Now they a bit of some of the founding fathers were elitists and did want um, aspects of the government removed from the common man because they thought the common man would be too, um, let's say, unenlightened to have a strong voice in how the government is run. However, I don't think they had in mind what is currently going on. I highly doubt that. At least not most of them. Joseph Pelosi joke about taxes was a joke. She gets it from insider training. Just get the app. This is all yams. And Martha, I mean Martha, I think she's in her 80s now, but I'm pretty. Martha like she. Let me be nice because I like Martha. Martha like she liked the. She, she, uh, I think she liked the chocolate back in the day. I'll put it that way. Her and Snoop seemed mighty close 20 years ago. I don't know. And even remember when she was she in this the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue in a bikini. This is in her 70s. I'm like, what's she doing? She like someone's great grandma, but whatever. Melissa's look, Nancy would make me cross the street and tuck my wallet handle in CC. He's exactly the detachment they have. They have nothing in common with any class. They are in a class of their own. He said, "You're right, very much like a monarch." Yeah, Congress is like so. House of Representatives were supposed to be the folks that were the most directly um, accessible to the common man, tantamount to in England the House of Commons, whereas um, whereas the Senate was supposed to be like the House of Lords, and that's exactly how they are too at this point, because like they're so freaking old. Like you can't have them talking about problems with social media and internet and digital media when most of them don't even understand how those things work or what they are. They have to rely on all their young people that on their team to basically educate them on these things. And on top of that, most of them don't have any technical training anyway, because most of the people who come into Congress typically come from a law background, so they really are pretty much like technologically illiterate anyway. So they wouldn't know about issues facing social media and crypto and other things like that we have to think about. Melissa's I will hook up with Martha one time just for the story. Why not? Not in her 80s. Like I'd have done it like 25 years ago, but not now. She's in her 80s. I can't do it. But anyway, I'm about to eat my little cup of noodles and go to bed, guys. It's a it's an hour 30 minutes in. It's 1:30 at night. So let me get off here. I guess it says get that money. I'm trying, and actually, it's weird. Like someone's gonna accuse me of being like money whoring because and it's like I don't tell anyone who's been rocking with me for the past 3 years. No, I don't demand people give me money. I only told people to give me money if you're gonna if you're gonna distract from the discussion on the live chat. And remember I even warned people a year and a half ago. I was like, hey, once I get monetized, these live chats are going to change a little bit where if people want to keep bringing up distractions to the discussion, I'm going to require them to drop a super chat, and I stuck by that. But I love the interaction with different people, but some people are mentally disturbed. Like I said, past midnight, you get unfortunately a bunch of neurodivergent people because, as I was discussing with one of my clients, who is severely autistic, and she was complaining about she often suffers sleep paralysis and has trouble staying awake. I mean, staying asleep at night. And I was like, yes, that's characteristic of people who suffer autism. She was like, what? What's the proof on that? I was like, well, the proof is one, I have a freaking psychology degree, so I already know about this. But I sent her a few links, and she was like, oh, okay. And I was like, it is well known within the literature of autism that many of them have problems with sleeping, which is why you see so many of them up at night. These are commonly the people who are trolling content creators in the middle of the night because they themselves can't go to sleep, and it causes cognitive and behavioral problems for them, and is exhibited in their verbal behavior with other people. It's like it's funny how people always challenge me on stuff, and I literally just like this is literally like my academic background. So, and it's like I don't even point that stuff out to be funny. It's just you know a fact of the matter. Neurodivergent people also tend to have problems with sleeping patterns and things called like parasomnia, which are different sleeping disorders and stuff like that that coalesce with autism. Uh, and it was like that guy was a Gaia or a girl, whichever guy it was exhibiting that sort of behavior. But anyway, I gotta go, guys. I'm tired. Joe says, keep up the good work. Thank you, man. Melissa says, enjoy the weekend. Good night. Thanks, guys. Carbo says, cheers. I enjoy listening, conversing with you. Appreciate it. Agnes says, good morning. Joe says, dude, I get sleep paralysis. I have to sleep on my side for years. Like I said, sleep paralysis is normal for everyone, but it's the frequency and the length of it. Like for some people with autism, like it can be much more frequent. Like she suffers from it a lot, and I was telling her as a fact of her autism, but she refuses to take medication, and she thinks she can self medicate through creatine. I'm like, creatine is not a psychoactive medication. It does have some nootropic effects. Nootropic means is a fancy word for smart drug. Taking creatine can help you with attention and focus, but it's not going to help with um, some of the symptoms of of um, of a neurodevelopmental disorder like autism. Like creatine's not going to help with that. So anyway, I'm out, guys. Thank you. Melissa, I've never seen nor heard you ask for money. Can confirm, been here before most, and you've given more. So anyone saying differently can kick rocks. We run a tight community larger than y'all think. Exactly. I've given out Molin knows, Agatha knows too. I've given out so much free information on here. Stuff that if you went to like a life coach, like you would pay a lot of money for. So whatever. Agatha's second moonlit. Thank you. Thank you guys. Joe says, all right, bro, good night. Melissa says creatine can help with focus and get more water to blood and muscles. Yep. So anyway, I'm out. Take it easy, everyone. Thank you. And we'll see if this gets monetized because you knew I threw a lot of F bombs in the beginning and told YouTube what I thought about my previous video game removal. So we'll see how this goes. Anyway, till then, peace out.